People judged them, whispered behind their backs, but none of them knew how their story would end. He was 24, she was 47, and love found a way. Rain poured in thick sheets, turning the streets of the city into a blur of gray. Claire tightened her coat around herself, cursing under her breath as the wind tore at her umbrella. She had already hit snooze 3 times that morning, and now she was late for work. The strap of her leather bag cut painfully into her shoulder as she sprinted down the sidewalk, her heels clacking against the wet pavement. She tried to keep her eyes on the street ahead, but a rogue puddle betrayed her. Splash! Her foot sank into icy water, soaking her socks and sending a shiver up her spine. Perfect, she muttered bitterly, wiping the water off her shoe, her umbrella threatening to flip inside out again. A body crashed into hers, knocking her off balance. Coffee flew from her hand, a dark liquid splattering across her white blouse and her favorite book, ruined before the day even started. She looked up in frustration and froze. Ethan stood there, tall, casual, calm, and infuriatingly composed, as if the rain and chaos didn't touch him at all. His hair was damp, but he didn't flinch. He held a bag of groceries, one hand brushing against hers as he steadied her. "I'm so sorry," he said, a hint of a smile tugging at his lips, eyes locked on hers in a way that made her heart thump too fast. Claire opened her mouth to scold him, but words failed her. Her pulse quickened. Why does he make me feel this way? I don't even know him. I'll clean that up, he added, reaching for a napkin. No, it's fine, really, just go, she snapped, brushing past him, trying to reclaim her composure. But as she walked away, she couldn't help sneaking a glance back. Ethan was still there, standing under the awning, looking at her like he was reading her mind, like he already knew something about her she hadn't told anyone in years. She clenched her fists and muttered to herself, "Focus, work, don't think about him." But her chest betrayed her. Her thoughts were already entangled in him, and something deep inside stirred, something she hadn't felt in a long, long time. Curiosity, intrigue, and something more. Dangerous. The camera of her mind lingered on him for one last second before she turned the corner, unaware that this brief, chaotic encounter was about to unravel everything she thought she knew about love, life, and herself. The next morning, Claire tried to shake off the memory of yesterday's chaotic encounter. She thought if she could just focus on her work, maybe the strange, unnerving pull she felt toward Ethan would fade. But life had other plans. As she walked to the cafe near her office, the one she visited every morning to get her survival coffee, she noticed him. Immediately, Ethan, standing by the window, casually sipping a latte, scrolling through his phone. His presence wasn't intrusive, but it was impossible to ignore. Claire froze mid-step, her bag swinging awkwardly against her side. She could feel her heartbeat in her throat. No, not today. Focus, pretend you didn't see him. But fate had a sense of humor. Ethan looked up at the exact moment she caught sight of him. Their eyes locked. His gaze was calm, teasing even, and for a moment the world shrank to just the two of them. Claire's fingers tightened around her bag strap. Why does looking at him feel like electricity running through my veins? Morning, he said casually, tilting his head, like he wasn't even aware of how unnervingly perfect his timing was. Morning, she replied, voice tight, trying to keep it neutral. He gestured toward the seat across from him. Join me. Coffee's better with company. Claire hesitated. Logic screamed, no. He was young, unpredictable, too bold, too everything. But some irrational part of her, the part that longed for a spark, wanted to say yes. She exhaled slowly. Fine. Just for a minute. As she sat, the rain outside eased into a gentle drizzle. The cafe smelled of fresh pastries and espresso. The sound of soft chatter surrounded them. But for Claire, the world had become impossibly small, focused only on him. Their conversation was cautious at first. Weather, work, mundane things. But every word was loaded with subtle tension. Every glance hinted at curiosity, attraction, and unspoken questions. Who is he? Why do I feel like I already know him? What is he doing to me? By the time Claire left the cafe, her coffee finished and her mind spinning, she knew one thing: she couldn't stop thinking about him. And somehow she suspected this wasn't going to be a simple passing encounter. That evening, Claire sat in her apartment, her laptop open, but her mind was nowhere near work. The memory of Ethan's calm smile, the way his eyes had lingered on her, haunted her. She couldn't explain it. It was like meeting someone who shouldn't exist in her ordinary life, yet felt familiar in ways she couldn't name. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I hope I didn't scare you this morning. Coffee tomorrow? Her heart skipped. It's him. She stared at the screen, frozen. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. Should she reply? Logic screamed no, but a small voice inside whispered yes. She typed back hesitantly. Tomorrow. Same place? Minutes later, her phone buzzed again. Perfect. Looking forward to it. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. She couldn't focus on cooking, couldn't focus on Netflix, couldn't even focus on the soft rain tapping against her window. All she could do was replay every detail of their encounter. The warmth of his hand when he steadied her, the way he laughed at her clumsy umbrella, the inexplicable pull she felt toward him. Later, as she lay in bed, she stared at the ceiling. Why now? Why him? She felt the stirrings of something dangerous and excitement she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. And yet, deep down, a whisper of fear lingered. Could she trust it? Could she trust herself? Little did Claire know, Ethan wasn't just a stranger drawn by coincidence. Something about her had caught his attention in a way he couldn't explain. Either a spark that felt like destiny wrapped in chaos. And tomorrow, when they met again, the first threads of their story would begin to unravel, and the ordinary world they both knew would start to shift in ways neither could foresee. The next morning, Claire arrived at the cafe 15 minutes early, her nerves twisting like a storm in her stomach. She scanned the room, eyes darting between tables, hoping she wouldn't be imagining things. Then she saw him, Ethan seated in the corner, casually sipping his coffee, laptop open, headphones around his neck. He looked up, and the corner of his mouth lifted into that familiar, disarming smile. Claire's breath caught. She gripped her bag tighter and walked toward him. With every step, she felt her pulse thudding against her ribs. This time she didn't hesitate. "Morning," she said, trying to sound calm but failing. "Morning," he replied, standing slightly as she approached. "Glad you made it." She sat down, and for a moment, neither spoke. The cafe buzzed around them, steam rising from cups, soft chatter, clinking cutlery. but it felt like a bubble had formed around them, isolating them from the world. Finally, Ethan leaned back, a playful glint in his eyes. "You really know how to make an entrance," he teased, nodding toward her slightly damp coat. Claire rolled her eyes but couldn't stop a small smile from forming. "You should have seen me yesterday," she admitted. "I was a mess. Coffee everywhere. Totally humiliating. I saw," he said, shrugging casually. "But I liked the chaos." Her brow furrowed in confusion. "You liked chaos?" He leaned forward slightly, lowering his voice. "Not the chaos itself, the way you handled it. The fire in you." Her chest tightened. She wasn't used to compliments, especially ones that felt like they saw asterisk inside asterisk her. She wanted to brush it off, to pretend it was nothing, but every word wrapped around her, tugging at her defenses. They talked, cautiously at first, about trivial things, the weather, favorite books, funny office mishaps. But under every word, a current of tension pulsed, a connection forming silently, irresistibly. By the time Claire left the cafe, her head was spinning, her pulse racing. Something had shifted. A subtle, undeniable pull tethered her to him now, and both of them knew, without speaking aloud, that their story had only just begun. That evening, Claire walked home with her mind buzzing. The conversation at the cafe replayed in her head, like a favorite song she couldn't stop. Every glance, every laugh, every subtle touch from Ethan was etched into her memory. She unlocked her apartment door, closed it behind her, and leaned against it, exhaling deeply. "Focus. Don't let it get to you. He's just someone you met." But the truth was undeniable. She was thinking about him constantly. Meanwhile, Ethan sat in his apartment across town, replaying the day in his own mind. He wasn't usually the type to feel so drawn to someone so quickly, but there was something about Claire, something raw, unpolished, real, something that made him forget to check his phone, forget the world outside his small bubble. The next morning, fate played its hand again. Claire had just entered the lobby of her office building when she saw him standing near the elevators, casually leaning against the wall, coffee in hand, eyes scanning the floor. For a second, everything stopped. Their eyes met. This time, no words were needed. A silent understanding passed between them, a spark of anticipation, electricity that made the air feel heavier. "Hey," he said softly as she approached, voice low enough to feel like it belonged only to her. "Hey," she replied, smiling despite herself. Her heart raced, palms slightly sweaty. They walked together to the elevator, the space between them charged. A gentle brush of their hands sent jolts up her arm. She tried to keep her composure, but inside, a fire had ignited an unspoken desire to know him, to unravel whatever mystery surrounded him. As the elevator doors closed, she caught a faint whiff of his cologne, something subtle and clean, yet intoxicating. Her breath hitched slightly. Ethan noticed. He smirked lightly, a teasing glint in his eyes. "I'm dangerous," he whispered. Claire's eyebrows shot up. "You're what?" "I'm distracting," he said, straight-faced, letting the pause linger between them. The elevator chimed at her floor, snapping her out of the daze. She stepped out, her mind spinning. Distracting? Yes. Dangerous? Maybe. But irresistibly. And with that, she walked into the office, unaware that the connection they had sparked was about to pull them both into a story neither of them could resist. Later that week, Claire sat at her desk, tapping her pen against her notebook, trying to focus on work. Her thoughts, however, kept drifting back to Ethan. She couldn't shake the way his eyes had lingered on her, the teasing smile, the subtle electricity that seemed to follow every encounter. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it. Ethan's name appeared on the screen. "Dinner tonight? I know a place you'll love." Her heart skipped a beat. Dinner? Tonight? She stared at the message, unsure if she should respond immediately. Logic argued against it. He was young, unpredictable, and she barely knew him. But curiosity, and something far more powerful, overpowered her hesitation. "I'll meet you there." 7 p.m., she typed back. Minutes later, another message. Perfect. "See you then." The evening arrived with a golden sunset painting the city skyline. Claire walked into the intimate restaurant, the soft hum of conversation around her, candles flickering on every table. She felt a nervous flutter in her stomach as she scanned the room. And then she saw him. Ethan, seated at a corner table, looking effortlessly composed, yet with a sparkle of anticipation in his eyes. He stood as she approached. "Claire," he greeted, voice warm, eyes lighting up. "I'm glad you came." "Me too," she replied softly, trying to steady her racing heart. They sat, and for a moment, silence wrapped around them, not awkward, but charged, full of expectation. The waiter brought their drinks, and the conversation began cautiously, yet effortlessly. They laughed at each other's stories, shared subtle glances, and discovered small, unexpected similarities. Every so often, their hands brushed across the table, sending jolts of awareness through Claire. She could feel herself melting under the intensity of the moment. By the end of the evening, the sun had completely set, leaving the city lights twinkling like stars below. They walked outside together, the air crisp and full of possibility. Ethan turned to her, eyes searching hers. "I hope this isn't too forward, but I'd like to see you again, soon." Claire's breath caught, her chest tight. I'd like that too," she whispered, a smile breaking across her face. And as they parted that night, each of them felt a magnetic pull that neither could ignore, a pull that promised this was just the beginning of something far more profound than either had expected. A few days later, Claire was sitting at her favorite coffee shop, working on her laptop when her phone buzzed again. It was Ethan. "Can we talk? It's important." Her stomach twisted. Important? That could mean anything. She hesitated for a moment, then typed back. "Where?" "Meet me at the park near the river." 6 p.m. Claire arrived early, the autumn leaves crunching beneath her shoes, a cool breeze brushing against her face. The park was quiet, almost serene, with only a few joggers and distant laughter echoing from a playground. And then she saw him standing under the dim glow of a street lamp, hands in his pockets, looking pensive. His usual confident demeanor seemed tempered by a hint of vulnerability. "Ethan," she greeted cautiously. "Claire," he said softly, stepping closer. "Thanks for coming." They walked together along the path, leaves swirling around their feet. Silence hung between them, heavy yet intimate. Finally, Ethan stopped and turned to face her. His expression was serious, different from the teasing charm she had grown used to. I haven't been completely honest with you, he admitted. Claire's heart skipped. What do you mean? He took a deep breath. I'm younger than I probably should be for what we're feeling, and I don't want you to think I'm careless or reckless. I can't help how I feel about you. Claire stared at him, words caught in her throat. Her chest tightened, a mixture of surprise, confusion, and undeniable attraction battling inside her. He's serious. He cares. But this is complicated. I feel the same, she whispered, barely audible over the rustling leaves. He smiled, a mixture of relief and something tender she hadn't seen before. Then maybe we can figure this out. Together. For the first time, Claire allowed herself to relax, leaning slightly toward him as the tension eased. A subtle electric connection pulsed between them, stronger now because it was real, honest, and raw. As they stood there, the city's distant lights twinkling behind them, they both knew that what they were feeling wasn't a fleeting spark. It was the beginning of something neither of them had anticipated, something powerful, inevitable, and beautifully complicated. That evening, Claire returned home, her mind racing with everything Ethan had said. She poured herself a glass of wine, pacing her apartment, trying to process the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside her. She hadn't felt this alive in years, her heart both terrified and exhilarated. Meanwhile, Ethan sat in his apartment, replaying their conversation over and over. Every glance, every word, every subtle touch haunted him. He knew what he felt was real, but the age difference, the societal whispers, the uncertainty, it all pressed down on him like a weight he couldn't shake. Later that night, their phones buzzed almost simultaneously. A video call request from Ethan. Claire hesitated, then accepted. Hey, she said, her voice soft, a little shaky. Hey, he replied, eyes warm and earnest. I couldn't stop thinking about you. They talked for hours, sharing secrets, childhood memories, and fears they hadn't told anyone else. Claire found herself laughing and crying in turns, the vulnerability between them building a bridge of trust and intimacy that neither expected. At one point, Ethan said quietly, I don't want to pressure you, Claire, but I need you to know what I feel for you isn't just attraction. It's deeper. It's real. Her heart skipped. She looked down, taking a deep breath. I feel it too, Ethan, more than I've felt in a long time. They stayed on the call long after the city fell silent, their voices soft whispers in the dark. And by the end, something had shifted. The walls they both carried, the fear, the hesitation, the past, they were slowly crumbling. As Claire finally hung up, she stared at the ceiling, a smile tugging at her lips. This is dangerous, but I can't resist it. And Ethan, sitting in the glow of his laptop screen, whispered to himself, she's everything I didn't know I was missing. The night wrapped them both in a quiet tension, a promise that tomorrow would bring more risk, more connection, more undeniable desire. Something neither of them could turn away from now. The following week brought tension that neither Claire nor Ethan had anticipated. Claire arrived at the office, still glowing from their late-night conversation, when she noticed the subtle glances from colleagues. Gossip traveled fast, and it didn't take long for whispers about the younger man and Claire to reach her ears. Her chest tightened with a mix of embarrassment and defiance. She loved Ethan, yes, but the judgment of others felt suffocating. Could they handle it? Could they survive the murmurs and stares of a world that didn't understand their connection? Ethan, on the other hand, was feeling the pressure in his own way. His friends were skeptical, their questions sharp and probing. "Are you sure about this?" they asked repeatedly. "She's older. It's complicated." He had no answer that satisfied anyone but himself. All he knew was how he felt when he was with Claire, the warmth of her hand in his, the light in her eyes, the way she made him feel seen. That was all that mattered. Later, they met at their usual cafe, the tension between them palpable. Claire lowered her gaze, stirring her coffee nervously. "People are talking," she said softly, almost afraid to speak the words aloud. Ethan reached across the table, gently lifting her chin to meet his eyes. "Let them talk," he said firmly. "What we have is ours. Nobody else's opinion changes that." A small smile tugged at her lips, though anxiety still lingered. "I want to believe that," she whispered. "I know you do," he replied. "And I'll remind you every day. We'll face this together." They sat in silence for a few moments, letting the comfort of their presence ease the tension. Outside, the city moved on, unaware of the quiet determination forming between them. A determination to protect what they had, no matter the obstacles. That evening, as Claire walked home under the fading light of the sun, she felt a surge of resolve. Love wasn't easy, she realized, especially when it defied expectations. But with Ethan, it was worth every risk, every whispered doubt, every challenge they might face. A week later, Claire stood at the riverside park where they first had their serious conversation. The golden afternoon light danced across the water, reflecting a sense of hope and possibility. Her phone buzzed. Ethan's name flashed. "Meet me where it all began. I have something for you." Her heart leapt, curiosity mixed with anticipation as she walked to the spot, leaves crunching beneath her shoes. And there he was, standing exactly where he had first confessed his feelings, holding a small bouquet of wildflowers, simple, beautiful, perfect. "Claire," he said softly, his voice trembling slightly with sincerity. "I know this isn't easy. There are people who don't understand us, but none of that matters to me. All that matters is you. All that matters is us." Tears welled in her eyes. She took a hesitant step forward. "Ethan, I've been scared. Scared of what people might think. Scared of feeling so much." He reached out, taking her hand gently in his. "You don't have to be scared. We'll face it together. Whatever comes, we'll handle it. Because this, what we have, it's worth it." For a long moment, they just stood there, hands intertwined, hearts beating in sync. The city around them faded into background noise. The rain from days before seemed like a distant memory, replaced by warm sunlight and the quiet certainty of something real. Claire smiled through her tears. "I believe you," she whispered. Ethan pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her, holding her like he never wanted to let go. "Then we start from here," he said, voice low, filled with emotion. "No fears, no doubts, just us." As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the river, they shared their first lingering kiss, sealing the unspoken promise between them. The world could watch, judge, or doubt, but their love, chaotic and unexpected, had triumphed. And in that moment, Claire realized that true love didn't care about age, societal expectations, or timing. True love simply found you, and when it did, it was worth every risk, every heartbeat, every stolen glance, and every daring step into the unknown. The camera pulls back, showing them standing together by the water, a young man and an older woman bound by destiny, proving that love can truly find you at any age.